The quiet in Transite was a cloudy Sunday afternoon in Los Angeles. Traffic was slow. Skies were gray, and everything felt still. Keanu Reeves had finished a long week of filming. His body ached, but his heart was at peace. He was finally going to do something he hadn't done in months, visit a place that meant more to him than any red carpet or movie premiere. The place wasn't glamorous. It wasn't loud or trendy. In fact, most people didn't even know it belonged to him. A small, buffet-style restaurant tucked in a quiet corner of the city. Honest Plates was Keanu's hidden project. He had bought it under a silent name, not for fame, not for money, but for dignity, for the kind of people who rarely got treated with it. The restaurant's mission was simple: affordable meals, clean service, no judgment. Sometimes he'd stop by as a customer, other times he'd wash dishes in the back. And now, on this cloudy Sunday, he walked through the back door wearing a plain gray hoodie and worn sneakers. Nobody recognized him, and he liked it that way. But what he heard when he stepped in changed everything. A sharp voice came from the kitchen. It was low, hurried, and bitter. "Just reheat it. They won't know the difference." Keanu froze. He didn't make a sound. He simply stood there, in the narrow hallway between the storeroom and the kitchen door. His hand rested lightly on the cold metal handle, but he didn't push it. Instead, he leaned in, quietly, like someone whose trust had just been scratched. "You really think these people care?" The same voice continued. "Half of them don't even have teeth. They just want something warm. No one's gonna complain." Keanu's eyes narrowed, not in anger, in disappointment. The kind that runs deep, like a wave of silence after something sacred is broken. He opened the door slowly. Inside, the small kitchen buzzed with motion. Steam filled the air, trays clattered, and fluorescent lights flickered above. Two employees stood near the warming station, one older man with gray sideburns, and one younger girl who looked uncomfortable, her hand hovering over a pan of stale, mashed potatoes. Keanu didn't say his name. He just spoke, soft but clear. "Is that how we treat people here?" They turned. The girl gasped and dropped the spoon. The older man squinted. "Wait, are you?" Keanu stepped in fully now, his face calm, his tone quiet, but firm. "It doesn't matter who I am," he said. "It matters who we serve." The room fell silent. The older man's mouth opened, then closed again. His name tag said Gary, kitchen lead. The girl bent down to pick up the spoon with shaking hands. She looked barely 20. The badge on her apron simply read Lucy. Keanu looked at the pan. "How old is that?" he asked, motioning gently to the potatoes. Lucy looked at Gary. Gary said nothing. Keanu stepped forward and gently took the spoon from her. He dipped it in, tasted it. His face changed barely, but it was enough. "This was made yesterday," he said, "and reheated twice." Gary cleared his throat. "Look, sir, I didn't mean sometimes you gotta stretch what you got. We get big crowds, short hands, and not enough fresh supplies, so we serve leftovers and pretend it's love." Keanu asked, his voice still soft. Gary had no answer. Keanu looked at Lucy. "Did you cook this?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I just came on shift. I was about to throw it out, but..." Her voice faded. Keanu nodded slowly. Then he walked over to the sink, took off his hoodie, rolled up his sleeves, and turned on the water. "Let's cook something real," he said. And just like that, the kitchen changed. Lucy's single quotes eyes widened. She looked at Gary, who now looked very small, suddenly unsure of his position. Keanu pulled out a fresh bag of red potatoes from the cold storage, laid them on the counter, and started washing them one by one. His movements were slow, steady, patient. Lucy joined him silently. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lucy. Thank you for being honest, Lucy." She smiled, just a little. Gary stood frozen, arms crossed, unsure whether to walk away or pretend to lead. "This place was built for people who are often forgotten," Keanu said without turning. "Not just by the world, but sometimes by those who serve them. But not here. Not on my watch." Lucy looked up. "You're really him, aren't you?" Keanu smiled faintly. "Doesn't matter." And for the next 2 hours, they cooked together. Real potatoes, fresh herbs, hand-mashed, no microwave. Outside, the buffet started filling up. People trickled in, an elderly couple holding hands, a mother with 2 kids, a man in a janitor's uniform, and even a young girl carrying a worn-out backpack. None of them knew who was cooking, but they all noticed something different that day. The food was warmer, the air was lighter, and the smiles at the counter were real. And Keanu, he didn't stop there. After the last plate was served, he stepped out into the dining hall, wearing the same hoodie, holding a tray of food, and sat beside a man in a wheelchair who was eating alone. "Mind if I join you?" Keanu asked. The man looked up, surprised. "You ate, sure." Keanu placed his tray down. "How's the food?" he asked. The man smiled. "Best it's ever been." Keanu smiled back. "Yeah," he said. "I can feel it too." But somewhere near the entrance, hidden just out of view, Gary stood with his phone out, texting someone in a panic. Because what Gary didn't know was someone else had heard that comment too. A woman, a journalist, and she was already dialing a number. This wasn't just about bad potatoes anymore. This was about truth. And it was just getting started. Asterisk the letter under the tray. Next morning, Keanu arrived earlier than usual. The sun had barely come up, and the streets were still quiet. He walked with purpose, carrying to paper bags fresh produce from a local farm he supported. He didn't say much to anyone. He simply placed the bags in the kitchen and began unpacking. But something was different. As he placed the bags on the counter, Lucy walked in holding a metal tray. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept. Without a word, she handed him the tray. "This was left on table 7, she whispered. Keanu raised an eyebrow and looked at it. Under the tray was a folded piece of paper, smudged with a fingerprint of mashed potatoes. He picked it up gently, unfolded it, and read silently. "Whoever made this food yesterday, thank you. I was going to give up. My wife died last month. I haven't eaten a real meal since. This was the first thing that felt like love. I was planning to end things tonight, but maybe not now. Thank you, whoever you are." Keanu held the note with both hands. His eyes didn't move for a while. Lucy watched him quietly, unsure if she should speak. Finally, Keanu folded the note again and placed it in his back pocket. "We keep cooking," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. That afternoon, the mood in the restaurant felt different. Something invisible but strong had shifted. Every staff member was more focused, more kind, more human. Except for Gary. Gary had been cold since morning. Not rude, just distant. He stayed mostly in the back, organizing deliveries, avoiding eye contact. Lucy had tried to speak to him, but he brushed her off. Keanu noticed. And when lunchtime ended, he walked into the break room and sat beside Gary. Without saying a word, Gary sighed. "Look, if this is about yesterday, I already said sorry." Keanu looked at him carefully. "You didn't." Gary hesitated. "Well, maybe not in words." Keanu leaned forward. "This place doesn't need perfect people. It needs honest ones. If you're having a hard time, talk. But don't take it out on the people we serve." Gary looked down. "I've been here 6 years, man. When we started, we had fresh everything, real care. But then costs went up. Staff quit. It got harder, and I guess I just stopped caring, like I used to." Keanu nodded. "You burnt out." Gary didn't respond. Keanu stood up. "Then take the weekend off. Come back fresh. If you still feel the same, we'll talk. But not like this." Gary blinked. "Wait, you're not firing me." "Not yet," Keanu said softly. "Everyone deserves a second chance. Even Gary." Meanwhile, outside the restaurant, a different kind of story was unfolding. The woman who had overheard Gary the day before, Julia, a local food columnist, had written a blog post that morning. Not a hit piece, not a scandal story. Just a quiet, heartfelt post titled, "The Man in the Hoodie Who Saved Dinner." She didn't mention Keanu by name. She didn't even realize it was him. But she described the moment he stopped the kitchen, took over the stove, and cooked with patience. Within hours, the post went viral. Not because it was famous, but because it was true. Comment after comment rolled in. "I wish more places cared like this. I hope my dad reads this. He works in food service and lost his joy. Someone give that man in the hoodie a hug." Julia's post ended with one question: "Do we serve to feed people, Or do we serve to be seen? By Thursday, the line outside Honest Plates doubled, and with it came someone unexpected. A young man in a suit walked in, holding a leather folder. He waited at the front, eyes scanning the room. Finally, he approached Lucy, who was cleaning the drink station. "Hi," he said. "Can I speak with the owner?" Lucy hesitated. You mean the manager?" "No," he said gently. "The real owner. The one who cooked here Sunday." Double quotes. Lucy blinked. Keanu was behind the counter, serving plates. She glanced at him, unsure. "Just a moment," she said, and walked over. She leaned close. "There's a man here. Says he wants to talk to you. He knows about Sunday." Keanu wiped his hands and walked over. The young man introduced himself quickly. "I'm David Lee, producer for Horizon Media. We saw the blog post. We know it's you." Keanu's face stayed still. "Calm." David continued. "We'd like to do a feature, a human story, something real, no press tours, no fluff, just you, cooking, helping." Keanu took a deep breath. "I appreciate it, but this place isn't about headlines." David smiled. "It's too late for that. People already noticed." Keanu looked out across the room. Families were eating. Elderly folks smiled between bites. A girl in a school uniform was reading while sipping soup. He turned back to David. "Okay," he said quietly, "but on one condition." "Name it." "No spotlight, no makeup, no actors. You film what's real. You film them, not me." David paused. "Deal." That night, Lucy stayed late. Keanu was still cleaning up in the back. She walked over slowly, drying her hands. "I'm glad you came in Sunday," she said. Keanu smiled faintly. "Me too." Lucy hesitated. "Can I ask something?" "Sure." "Why do you care so much? I mean, you could be anywhere doing anything." Keanu put down the towel. "When I was young," he said, "my mom worked 2 jobs. We used to eat once a day. There was a small shop on our street that gave her bread when we couldn't afford it. The owner never asked questions, never made us feel small." He looked up. "This is my way of passing that forward." Lucy nodded slowly. "You know, Gary isn't bad. He's just tired." "I know," Keanu said. "We all get tired. We just need someone to remind us why we started." Lucy smiled, and for the first time since Sunday, the restaurant felt like it was breathing again. But as the lights dimmed and Keanu locked up, he didn't notice a black car parked across the street. Inside it, a woman watched quietly through tinted windows. She had the blog printed out in her lap and a photo in her hand, a photo of Keanu. Years ago, beside someone who looked a lot like her, someone who used to work in kitchens too, someone whose name was about to bring more than just attention. It was about to shake everything. The woman in the cart next morning started calm, just like the day before. The sun was shining for the first time all week. Birds chirped. The street outside Honest Plates was already lined with customers waiting for the doors to open. Inside, Keanu was setting up with Lucy. They worked side by side like a quiet rhythm, sharing glances and soft laughs. Even Gary, now back from his short break, seemed lighter. He no longer snapped at the staff. Instead, he helped slice vegetables and asked if anyone wanted coffee. The kitchen, once filled with tension, now carried the smell of cinnamon and second chances. But at 11:40 a.m., the bell above the door jingled, and something shifted. She walked in slowly, calm, dressed in soft navy blue, maybe in her late 50s, maybe older. Her gray hair was tied back neatly, and she carried a small black handbag over her arm. Nothing about her screamed attention, yet all eyes turned toward her. Lucy greeted her at the counter. "Hi, welcome to Honest Plates. Would you like the buffet or a plated meal?" The woman smiled, kind and steady. "I'm actually looking for someone." Lucy tilted her head. "Okay, who?" The woman paused and gently placed a photograph on the counter. It was old. Slightly faded. Keanu Reeves, no more than 25, smiling beside a kitchen sink, soap bubbles on his sleeves. "Him," she said softly. Lucy single quotes S eyes widened. She turned to Keanu, who was wiping down the soda machine. Keanu," she said, "someone's here to see you." He looked up casually, then froze. His eyes met hers. For a moment, the restaurant disappeared. The noise, the clatter, the customers gone. All that remained was the woman in the blue coat. Keanu walked forward, slowly. She smiled. "You remember me?" she asked. He swallowed hard. "Yeah, I do." Lucy watched, confused but curious. The woman extended her hand. "I'm Irene." Keanu shook it gently. "I know." Irene looked around. "This place, it's beautiful. It feels real. That's the goal," Keanu said softly. Irene looked him straight in the eye. "I knew your father. Before the accident, he worked with my brother." Keanu's face changed. A flicker of pain. A flicker of memory. Lucy slowly backed away, giving them space. Irene opened her bag and pulled out an envelope. "I kept this all these years," she said. "I never knew when I'd see you again. Or if I should." Keanu took the envelope with careful hands. Inside, there was a note. Handwritten. Short. From his father. "I know I wasn't a good man. But tell my boy I always knew he'd be better. Tell him I'm sorry." Keanu's hands trembled. He hadn't seen his father in over 3 decades. The man had disappeared one night and never come back. All these years, he thought the man had simply moved on. He didn't know. He had left behind an apology. A hope. A regret. He died working in a kitchen. Irene whispered, "In a place like this, serving people no one else would serve." Keanu sat down. He didn't speak. He just nodded. Irene sat across from him. "I read the blog, saw the photo. It reminded me of him. The way you cooked, the way you looked at people." Keanu's voice was quiet. "I didn't know. I think you always did," she said, deep down. He looked at the note again, then folded it, placed it in his pocket next to the one from the man who almost gave up. Irene stood up. "I won't stay. Just wanted you to know. He saw something in you, and he was right." Keanu stood too. They hugged. A soft, slow, silent hug. The kind that heals something even words can't. And then, just like she came, Irene walked out quietly, disappearing into the sunlight. That evening, Keanu sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the 2 notes side by side. Lucy knocked gently on the doorway. "We're done closing." He looked up, blinking back into the moment. "Thanks." She stepped in. "That woman, she was important." Keanu nodded. "She brought me a memory I didn't know I needed." Lucy smiled gently. "We're lucky to have you here." Keanu shook his head. "I'm lucky to have you all." Lucy walked over and placed a small wrapped box on the counter. "What's this?" he asked. "Open it." Inside was a new set of kitchen knives. On one handle was engraved, "Cook with kindness." Keanu smiled deeply. "They're from all of U.S., Lucy said. "You reminded us what this place is really about." Just then, Gary stepped into the room. "Hey," he said awkwardly, "can I show you something?" Keanu and Lucy followed him out back, where he had been working on a wooden frame. It was a shadow box. Inside it, mounted neatly, were photos of past meals, old customer notes, and staff memories. In the center, framed, was the letter Keanu found. Under the tray. Gary cleared his throat. "Thought we should remember why we're here." Keanu put a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you." Gary looked down, eyes glassy. "I was lost. I think I'm finding my way again." Keanu nodded. "We all are." But as the staff left for the night, and Keanu finally stepped out into the cool air, a familiar face waited at the corner. Julia, the journalist who had written the blog. She looked nervous. "Hi," she said. I owe you an apology." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Your story blew up more than I expected," she said. "People are asking who you are. Some figured it out. It's spreading." Keanu sighed. "I didn't want the attention. I know," she said quickly. "But maybe it's not bad. Maybe this place, this idea, maybe the world needs to see it." Keanu thought for a long moment. "Then tell them the truth," he said. "Tell them it's not about me. It's about them." Julia smiled. "Deal." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, someone's asking to meet you. Said they want to help fund 5 more branches across the country. Anonymous donor. But I think you know who it is." "Who?" She grinned. His assistant said. "He remembers the soup." Keanu blinked. And suddenly he knew. The man who left the first note. The one who almost gave up. He was coming back. Not just for a meal. But for a mission. This was no longer just a restaurant. It was the beginning of something much bigger. 5 new doors. Next morning, Keanu arrived at Honest Plates before sunrise. He stood outside the building for a long time, just watching it. The sign above the entrance was worn, but still clear. The front door creaked a little when opened. The same flower pot with chipped paint sat by the window. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. He stepped inside and walked to the kitchen. Everything was clean, quiet. A warm memory from the day before still hung in the air. He looked at the 2 notes in his pocket again, one from his father, and one from a man whose life had turned because of mashed potatoes. Then the doorbell rang. Keanu walked back to the front. It wasn't Julia this time. It was a tall man in a charcoal suit, maybe late 40s, dark glasses, holding a silver briefcase. He nodded politely. "Mr. Reeves." Keanu blinked. "You know who I am." The man smiled. "Your name wasn't on the sign, but your kindness was, and that travels faster than any billboard." Keanu stayed quiet. "I represent Glenn Wade," the man continued. "He recently recovered from depression. Says a simple meal reminded him of life. He believes it was prepared by you." Keanu nodded slowly. "The note." The man opened the briefcase and slid a folder across the counter. "Mr. Wade owns several commercial properties. He wants to fund 5 new Honest Plates restaurants, different cities, same mission." Keanu opened the folder. Inside were photos of empty storefronts. Each had a note attached. "Oakland, near the shelter. Houston, across from the clinic. Cleveland, beside the old bus station. Miami, behind the library. Detroit, where no one's looking." Each one felt personal, chosen with care. "He doesn't want recognition," the man added. "He just wants more places where people are seen." Keanu closed the folder. He looked around the little restaurant that started it all. Then nodded. "We'll do it. Bye." That afternoon, the kitchen was full again, but this time, not just with food. Lucy and Gary were helping Keanu plan the next steps. Maps were laid out on the table. Menus were discussed. New staff would need to be trained. Equipment ordered. Recipes preserved. But more than anything, they talked about values. No frozen shortcuts. Lucy said firmly, "No talking down to people," added Gary. "No corners cut." Keanu finished. "Just kindness, served hot." The rest of the staff joined in. Ideas flowed. Laughter filled the room. It no longer felt like just one place. It felt like a growing family. Then, as the energy buzzed, a voice came from the hallway. "Guys, someone's asking for Keanu." It was one of the high school students who volunteered part-time. Keanu walked out front. Standing by the counter was a young girl. Maybe 10. Thin, nervous, holding a showbox with both hands. Her shoes were dusty, her coat too big. She stared up at him with wide eyes. "Are you the man who made the soup?" Keanu nodded. "I did." She stepped forward and opened the showbox. Inside were 7 paper flowers, handmade, each folded with care. "My mom says we don't have money to pay," the girl said quietly, "but we wanted to give you something." Keanu reached into the box slowly, lifting one of the flowers. "These are beautiful," he said. The girl smiled, small but proud. "My sister makes them from old books." "Thank you," Keanu whispered. "I'll keep them forever." He knelt down to her level. "You hungry?" he asked. She nodded. "Then let's eat." He brought her to a table, made her a fresh bowl of soup, and sat beside her while she ate. No questions. No judgment. Just 2 people sharing something warm. That night, as they closed up, Keanu placed the paper flowers in a jar behind the register. "They stay here," he told Lucy. "Remind us what we're really building." But Lucy had something else in her hands. A printed email. "You should see this," she said. Keanu took the page and read, "Dear Keanu, I watched the video online, the one Julia made. I haven't spoken to my mother in 6 years. I don't even remember the sound of her laugh anymore. But when I saw you sitting with that girl, something broke inside me. I'm flying out tomorrow to visit her. I don't know what will happen, but I needed to try. Thank you." Keanu sat down, overwhelmed. Lucy placed a hand on his shoulder. "You think you're just cooking food, but you're healing people." Keanu looked up. "I don't want it to become about me." "It's not," she said. It's about what you started and what we're going to finish, but not everyone was happy. In a nearby office building, a man slammed his laptop shut. He wore a gold chain, a crisp white shirt, and a scowl on his face. He was the owner of Reheat and Feast, a flashy buffet chain known for cheap frozen food and aggressive ads. His sales had dropped by 20% in the last week. Customers were leaving reviews like, "Honest Plates treats you like a human. At least I know the soup's fresh." And worst of all, if Keanu Reeves ran every restaurant, the world would be better. The man's name was Victor Kane. And Victor hated losing. He picked up his phone and dialed fast. "Get me everything." "On that place," he barked. "Honest Plates. Who owns it? Who runs it? I want dirt. Anything." On the other end, a voice replied, "Sir, the owner is Keanu Reeves." Victor paused, then laughed bitterly. Of course, the hero, the actor, the saint. He leaned back in his chair, smirking. Let's see how clean his kitchen really is. Back at Honest Plates, Keanu had no idea a storm was brewing. He was sitting with Lucy, reviewing the volunteer list. "We'll need teams in every new location," she said. "Someone to lead each kitchen." Keanu nodded. "We start small, one city at a time." Lucy looked at him. "Which one first?" He looked down at the folder. His eyes landed on Detroit, where no one's looking. He smiled. "That one." Lucy smiled too. "Then let's go where no one's looking," she said. And outside, under the night sky, the sign over the door glowed faintly. Honest Plates, served with dignity. But just around the corner, a car sat in the shadows, and inside, a photographer zoomed in with his camera, waiting for the moment to strike, because someone was coming. Someone who didn't want kindness. Someone who wanted control. The smear campaign. It started with a headline. Is Honest Plates really that honest? At first, nobody paid much attention. It looked like clickbait. Another article with a dramatic title and nothing inside. But within hours, more posts followed. Keanu Reeves caught running illegal food operation. Staff claims pressure. Poor conditions behind the scenes. Why celebrity kitchens aren't what they seem. Photos appeared next. Blurry images of the back storage room during a busy day. A trash bin that hadn't been emptied yet. A worker yawning. A cracked tile near the sink. None of it showed anything terrible, but the way it was presented made it seem like a disaster. Keanu sat in the back office, staring at the screen. Lucy stood beside him, stunned. Gary paced the room. "This is garbage," Gary growled. "They're twisting everything. They got that photo from 2 weeks ago," Lucy said, pointing. "That's before we even repaired the floor. And the bin, that's literally one shift late." Keanu said nothing. He was quiet. Still. But his jaw was tight. "Someone's trying to break this place," Gary said. "You think it's that buffet guy? What was his name?" "Victor Kane," Keanu said calmly. Lucy frowned. "He owns Reheat and Feast, the one with all the frozen meatloaf ads." Keanu nodded. "He's losing money, so he's fighting back. Not with food, with lies." Gary slammed a plastic spoon on the desk. "So what now? We just sit and take it?" Keanu looked up, his eyes clear. "No," he said. "We cook." The next day, Keanu didn't do interviews. He didn't post on social media. He didn't argue. Instead, he walked to the kitchen at sunrise and started making stew. Fresh vegetables, chopped herbs, slow cooked for 6 hours. By 11 a.m., the line outside Honest Plates was longer than ever. Because while some people believed the lies, many didn't. Especially not the ones who had sat at those tables, eaten that food, felt that dignity. A man from the shelter brought a group of 5 and said, "If this is a scam, it's the kindest one I've ever seen." A woman in a business suit told Lucy, "I've eaten at Reheat and Feast. They reheated my sandwich. Here. You remembered my daughter's name." Even a food inspector showed up. Not because of a complaint, but because she had read the article and didn't believe it. "I came to see for myself," she told Keanu, clipboard in hand. Keanu walked her through everything. The fridge temperatures, the food labels, the storage safety. She nodded slowly, impressed. "You run a tighter kitchen than half the places with 5 stars, she said. And then she added, "Also, thanks for the soup." Because she was the same woman who had once cried quietly in a booth after losing her brother. Keanu hadn't known then, but she had. She remembered. And now she returned. Not for justice. For truth. But Victor Kane wasn't done. By Friday, he launched a fake whistleblower video. Someone in a blurred mask claimed Honest Plates was a celebrity vanity project, and nobody actually volunteers there. He even paid influencers to repost it with angry captions. See? Another Hollywood scam. It's all staged. But then, something unexpected happened. People began posting their own videos. A janitor stood in front of the camera and said, "I volunteer here every Saturday. No one pays me, but I leave feeling richer than any job." A teenage boy said, "I used to steal food. Here, they let me cook, and they taught me." A nurse posted a photo of her and her elderly patient, both smiling over lunch. Caption, "Real food, real kindness, no lies." One by one, the truth began pushing back. Not from Keanu, but from the people. From the ones Victor Kane thought were too poor, too invisible, too weak to fight back. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Julia. The original blogger. She released a new post. But this time, it had video footage. The security cam from the back alley. It showed a man sneaking behind Honest Plates, placing something near the bins, then pulling out a camera. The man was traced to a media firm, one that worked directly with Victor Kane. The post ended with 3 words, "We see you." The internet exploded. People were furious. Victor's name trended, but not in the way he hoped. Calls to boycott Heat and Feast went viral. Memes appeared. Photos of frozen meatloaf with captions like "served with lies." And all around the country, people began asking one thing: where's the nearest Honest Plates? Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Keanu sat quietly, slicing carrots. Lucy walked in, phone in hand. "You've been cleared," she said. The health department released a statement. They said you're one of the safest kitchens in the city. Keanu smiled faintly, and Julia's story hit 10 million views. Keanu looked up. "You know what matters more?" "What?" He handed her a bowl of stew. "Taste this." She took a bite. Then laughed. "Okay, yeah, that matters more." They laughed together. But then Lucy leaned forward. "Why didn't you fight back?" Keanu shrugged. "Because you don't put out fire with fire. You put it out with light." She looked at him, puzzled. He explained softly, "They came with lies. We answered with truth." They shouted. "We cooked." Lucy nodded slowly. "You really are different," she whispered. "No," Keanu said. "I'm just trying to be the person I needed when I was hungry." But that night, as they locked up, Lucy noticed something taped to the front door. A letter. Handwritten. No envelope. It read, "I was one of the people paid to lie about you. I took the job because I was desperate. But I ate your food today. I saw you. I felt something I haven't felt in years. Guilt. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. Just wanted to say the truth." Keanu read it twice. Then folded it and placed it in his pocket beside the other 2. Lucy looked at him. "What do you want to do?" Keanu looked at the sky, then at the street. He answered quietly, "Forgive him." Lucy smiled. "And tomorrow?" Keanu turned back to the door and unlocked it. "We cook." But just as he stepped inside, Lucy's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it. Froze. "Keanu, look at this." He came over. On her screen was a message from Julia. "Detroit location attacked. Someone threw bricks through the window. Staff shaken, but safe." Keanu's face darkened, not with anger. But with resolve. "Get me a flight," he said. "Tonight? Right now." Because the mission was growing, and the kindness that started with one bowl of soup was now under fire. The soup that couldn't be broken. Keanu didn't wait till morning. He packed a small bag, kissed Lucy on the forehead gently, and boarded the red-eye flight to Detroit. He didn't take security. No one in the airport recognized him, not because he wore a disguise, but because he walked like a regular man. No star aura, no spotlight, just Keanu on a mission to protect something pure. When he landed, the wind was cold and sharp. Detroit's winter hadn't softened. The streets were wet with melting snow, and the morning sky looked like steel. But Keanu walked without stopping. When he reached the Honest Plate's Detroit location, his heart broke. The front windows were shattered. Glass covered the sidewalk. Spray paint across the wall read, "Fraud Food." A staff member barely in her 20s was sitting on the curb, crying quietly into her sleeves. Keanu knelt beside her. "Hey," he said softly. She looked up, her eyes swollen, and froze. "Wait, are you? Doesn't matter, right?" "Now," he whispered. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "They came at night. We were prepping dessert in the back. They smashed everything, said we were fake, called us liars." Keanu looked at the broken glass. Then at her scraped palms. He reached out and helped her stand. "They can break windows," he said, "but not what's inside." An hour later, news trucks arrived. Someone had tipped them off. Cameras pointed. Reporters asked questions. Double quotes. Reeves, what do you have to say about the attack? Keanu stood in front of the broken window with his arms crossed. His voice was calm. "You can't silence kindness," he said. "You can't shame compassion. And you can't erase the truth by breaking glass." Another reporter asked, "Do you think Victor Kane is behind this?" Keanu didn't flinch. "I think fear makes people do terrible things," he said. "But I also think forgiveness can do greater things. Will you press charges?" He looked toward the young woman who had been crying earlier. She was now sweeping up the glass with another volunteer. He turned back to the camera. "We'll press forward." The community responded faster than anyone expected. By noon, more than 30 people showed up to help clean. A man brought plywood to board the windows. A local bakery delivered fresh loaves for free. A teacher arrived with her whole classroom. The kids handed out handmade cards that read, "Kindness is stronger than fear." And Keanu? He was in the back, making soup. He used the same recipe as the first night in Los Angeles. Fresh carrots, soft potatoes, a little thyme. The smell filled the air. The Detroit kitchen staff, still shaken, found strength in his presence. They worked harder, stood taller, smiled wider, and at 5 p.m., despite the broken windows, they opened their doors. People came in, some curious, some angry, but most came because they believed. And when they tasted the soup, they knew this wasn't a show. This wasn't a scam. This was real. That evening, back in Los Angeles, Lucy sat in the original Honest Plates watching the live news stream from Detroit. Julia stood beside her. "He did it again," Julia whispered. Lucy smiled. "No, they did it. The people." Julia turned to her. "I want to ask you something." "Go ahead." "What if we go bigger?" Lucy blinked. "How big?" "A National Kitchen Day, 1 day a year. Every city opens its doors. Free meals, no questions, just dignity." Lucy stared at her. "We'll call it Honest Day." 3 weeks later, the idea took off. Keanu returned to Los Angeles to find banners hanging from poles. Double quotes, "Honest Day, March 12." Celebrity chefs offered to help. Cafes across the country volunteered their spaces. And Victor Kane, he tried to fight it again. He paid for ads saying, "Don't fall for the soup lie." But this time, no one listened, because something stronger had taken over. Memory. The memory of warmth. Of kindness. Of meals served by someone who looked you in the eyes and said, "You matter." Victor's empire shrank. His frozen meals stopped selling. His locations closed one by one. And no one shed a tear. On March 12th, Honest Day arrived. In New York, a chef served soup under a bridge. In Atlanta, kids made sandwiches for the elderly. In San Francisco, a family opened their garage and fed over 100 people. And in Los Angeles, Keanu stood in front of his original restaurant. With Lucy beside him. Gary on his left, and the little girl with the showbox of paper flowers sitting at a table with her mother. Now an employee of the restaurant. Julia was filming everything, not for fame. But for proof that something beautiful had happened. Keanu held a tray of bowls, walked to the first table, and said the same words he'd said on the very first day. "You hungry?" The woman nodded, her eyes full. "Then let's eat." Later that night, when everything was quiet, Keanu sat in the back with Lucy. He opened a small notebook. Inside were all the letters he had saved. The one from the man who almost ended his life. The one from his father. The apology from the man paid to lie. And a new one, a thank you note from a single mother in Miami who had been served soup and left with a job. Lucy leaned against him. You built something no one can break, she said softly. Keanu looked around the kitchen. No, he said. We built it, she smiled, and then asked, so what now? Keanu chuckled. Now we cook. And far away, in a quiet room, a man sat alone with a bowl of soup. He had no family. No money. But tonight, he had warmth. And on the napkin beside him were two words, you matter. He wept. Quietly. Because in that moment, he believed it. For the first time in years. And it all began with one man who refused to let food be served without kindness.